still watching the People's Daily. This is Newdawn this Monday morning. We apologize for starting this segment a bit late. We sincerely apologize for that. Last week, the global media was awash with the row that broke out at the Capitol Hill in the United States of America. Of course, that event brought a lot of questions on the democratic values or system of the USA, the biggest country in the world. So for us here this morning, we felt we should look at that issue, and this morning we are joined by two seasoned gentlemen who in terms of public life, they've actually made their marks. And so this morning they'll be talking about the Capitol Hill RIOT test for democratic system of the USA. This morning I have in the studio on my immediate right, Mr. Kola Ogunleye is actually an architect and also a public analyst. Good morning, Mr. Ogunleye. Good morning. It's good to have you join us. We also have engineer Biodun Fijabi. He's not strange to us, one of the regular faces on the People's Daily OGTV 258. He's also a public commentator. Good morning, engineer.
Good morning.
Fijabi. Let's start with Mr. Ogunleye. The event of last week in the USA, some people have actually said that it signifies perhaps the fact that there are two groups of Americans, if you look at the way the thing happened, that probably actually called to question the unity of America as a country. Is that what you feel too?
Let me start by saying that what happened a few days ago in the United States is a climax, or if you like, anticlimax of a series of events that have started since the conclusion of the election into the office of the President of the United States in November. You will recall that once the electioneering campaign went underway, Mr. Trump, the current President of the United States, has been making a lot of statements concerning the credibility of the electoral process in the United States. I recall also that in his election against Mrs. Clinton, he also alluded to the fact that in spite of the fact that he won that election, he was always complaining about the electoral system, that most of the votes that Mrs. Clinton got were fraudulent votes, that you recall at that time that Mrs. Clinton won the majority vote, but she lost on the electoral college count. That was back in the days in 2016. And since he became the President of the United States, he's been complaining that the system is rigged against people and all of that. So after the election in November, he started talking about the fact that he had won the election. That initial thing, that from the reports he had won. But the other guy, Mr. Biden, was saying that these people should stay calm. They should wait for the conclusion of the electoral process. So to some of us that have been watching Mr. Trump, it was not a big surprise that after the results were concluded, especially in what is generally referred to as the battleground states, and he lost, because you know that the US is different in the sense that there are blue states and there are red states. There are states that are traditionally conservative states, which is almost certainly going to be won by Republicans. And there are states that are, blue states that is almost certain to be won by the Democrats. So once those two sets of states are known, then the battle shifted to the battleground states. Because at the battleground state level, they started having problems. So and once the results in those states were concluded, and certain red states suddenly turned blue. The state of Arizona and the state of Georgia turned blue. They were traditionally, at least in the last few decades, they've been red states, which means they are Republican. In short, Mr. Trump lost the election, fair and square. But he wouldn't agree. So as soon as the results were coming in, he started alleging that the elections were, fraudulent, that they were stealing his votes. And he took onto the social media to disseminate that view. And don't forget that Mr. Trump has some kind of control over what we call the Trump base, which is which consists of low-class people, if you like, the poor rural folks, the barely educated folks in the United States. So he has been able to capture them by preaching racism, by preaching all manner of things that the middle class and the other class are working against them, that he is the only one for them. So because we need to trace this background, and the chronology of events for us to appreciate why we are where we are, with respect to the democratic practice in the U.S. So once Mr. Trump got elected, he started working on those folks, and he started cultivating them, appealing to them, sort of manipulating them to the extent that they listened to him a lot of time. Don't forget that he also had about close to 80 million votes or so. So we are not looking at somebody who does not have followership. So he has a very strong cult-like followership in the U.S. among those categories that are described. The guys in the rural America, those who are not college educated, and people who believe in that America should be for the whites only. So these people he has cultivated racism, appealing to the there is this culture in the rural America that you must own a gun. And the other party say, look, we have to control guns. He said, no, you guys are free to have guns. You own America. When he's saying that make America great again, what he's actually saying that let America work for the whites. That's the kind of language. So that resonated with a lot of folks in the United States. So he has this cult-like followership there. So when the election was finally lost and won, and it dawned on him that he went to court. He lost in all the courts, including courts where he recently appointed judges into, like the Supreme Court. He lost everywhere, and even his own people, the Republicans in those states, in the battleground states, insisted that the elections were not fraudulent, that the votes were not stolen. So at the end of the day, you find a man who was frustrated. So he now resorted to the kind of situation we have, because the final thing was for the National Assembly, that is their legislature at the federal level, to do what? To stamp, to certify the result of the Electoral College votes. And that was what was about to be done. And he was like, wow, once this is done, that means I'm gone, finally. So he appealed to his vice president, who normally chairs such an event, and he said, look, Mr. Pence, do something about this thing, and all of that. But the guy insisted he will not do any of such things. So they've been saying they will march on Washington on that day, that there will be protests. But we did not imagine the extent Mr. Trump went into to be a part of that kind of undertaking. And so when he marched on Capitol, it was to frustrate the process that was about to take place. And that is to put the final nail on the coffin of Mr. Trump's presidency, which was what was supposed to happen. So, but they invaded the place. They even tried to, they got into the chambers and, temporarily frustrated the process. Of course, what does that say about democracy? It always says something for me. The lesson is that...
Well, maybe we are going to get there. Maybe we are going to get it. Let us look at the system. Engineer Abiodun Fijabi, let us look at the system. This same system that Trump has faulted now that he lost, he also faulted it when he actually came in, when he won. I mean, I'm talking about the two-step electoral process, the popular votes, and then the, what is it called, the electoral college. Now, quite a number of persons who have said that that could as well be the reason why we have all of this. Why not have one election and then let it be all? What's your thoughts, having observed what has played out in the US now, and then the system as a whole?
Well, I think Architect had mentioned the background. I think part of the background also will be the election of a black man in 2008. I think it hit the rural folks and the white like a thunderbolt in our country. Well, racism has been silent in the United States. For anybody, any black man who had traveled to the United States, you would know that, it is the law that is keeping a lot of these basic and foul, reactions from people from coming to the fore. But by the time Obama became president, when they made a decision that he was going to be a one-term president, and he came back in 2012 and used the majority which came from the minorities, Asians, Latinos, Black Americans, and then splinters from the white, base to win re-election. And then they rose up. Trump emanated from that. The rural populace, the whites are discontented with the nation, and they want their country back. By wanting their country back, they mean they want it white. And when he came in, you could see the 90% of his cabinet members were white people. And that really helped. And he was going to appoint 3 judges. That was really great for them, so they would be able to have their conservative base. So they were ready to parley with these excesses, because the Conservative Party, actually the party of the Democratic Party, really, in terms of constitutionality of the nation, the freedom of states to make their decisions. So you wouldn't expect a conservative presidential candidate to begin to say to the states, your electoral college vote is, which has been certified, is fraudulent. Because that's against the constitutionality of the United States, to which the Republican Party subscribed. So he came in as a different person, ready to break down institutions. And the Republican Party are interested in power, regardless of whether the power is colored by some excesses or not. That is what you have seen. So we have seen a system that is fraught with problems like every human system. What keeps a system working is the set of laws, the models that you have within the community who are promoting those set of laws and who are not willing to break them. And when you break them, you suffer consequences. Trump wants to break those laws. He doesn't want to suffer consequences. He believes he can do anything and get away with it. But you have seen the triumph of the system over a strong man. And that's the beauty of the American system. I know they're going to wobble and tumble, but guess what? They will get back. And the rule of law will prevail. That's why those guys went back and concluded the assignment that same night. And now he's likely going to be impeached the second time. And that's the triumph of democratic process.
But how realistic would that be? I mean, because I know that sometimes, there was a time he was also impeached by the Senate.
Yes.
But he did not, he was not convicted by
the Senate.
By the House of Representatives.
No, it was the other way around.
Okay, the House of Representatives impeached him,
yes,
but it was not convicted by the Senate.
It was not impeached by the Senate.
It was not removed.
There would be concurrence, by the 2 wings of the National Assembly, of the legislature, of the Congress. Is the right word there.
So now that it is playing out now, I mean, because the Speaker of the House of Representatives has come out to say...
I think we should look at the forces that are acting, on this issue, and look at them the way it's playing out. First of all, there are 2 ways of getting him out of the way. They want to punish him. They want him to face the consequence of his action. Not only for now, but to prevent a man of Trump's character from coming into office again. Because if he's not impeached and there's no issue with him, he can still contest in 4 years' time. He has a maximum of 2 terms to use as an American in the presidency, so he still has that one. But we must not fail to really look at some of the issues that the engineer raised earlier on concerning institutions, laws, and systems, and the capacity of those institutions and systems to withstand pressure. And the lesson that is in all of this, we have a man who had, practically held the nation by the jugular in terms of, trampling upon all, part of their system. And this one, he does not even want to go. He's just behaving like a typical African leader. Apologies to our leaders everywhere, but that's the way it is. They don't want to leave office. But Trump's behavior also, like he said, endangers democracy. We must see. It's not because the American system is resilient. And some of the things that have happened in our country here, we would then begin to appreciate it better. In a presidential system of governance, there are so many powers that are endowed in the presidency. And you see the way Mr. Trump was using it, to the extent that even people like Clinton, Obama, and all of them were saying that eternal vigilance is the way to go, that this man can do anything. So if you have a presidential system that concentrates so much powers in the president, we used to say that the Nigerian constitution creates the most powerful president in the world. But if the president of the US decides to use his power, you can see the extent it can go. But then there are checks and balances within the system, which is where we are going, that the Congress can actually impeach him. But look at the forces at play. They still have, somehow, the majority in the Senate. I don't think the 2 senators from the state of Georgia have been sworn in.
Until the 19th.
So they still have the majority. And they would not like their president to be disgraced. Don't forget that in spite of all that he has done, the leader of the Congress, and that's the majority leader in the Senate,
McConnell.
Yes, he's still within. Because what they are trying to do is to say that just prevent the Democrats from coming in. And that if Democrats come in, that's like socialism coming in. You can see the result of the debate on the stimulus, where McConnell said no, they're not going to do $2,000, that they should do $700. So what we are saying is that it is a fight between ideology, actually. But the way Trump is doing it, what people are now saying is that we are no longer looking at a fight. We are looking at somebody with authoritarian tendencies, with fascist tendencies, trying to take over the United States governing system. But he's not alone, but even those people that are within, saying that he wants to destroy democracy itself, saying that his actions threaten democratic practice, they are already moving, coalescing against him. To that extent, the Senate may do something, but they will come short of impeaching him. Well, Nancy Pelosi, that's the
President,
the Speaker of the House of Representatives, has said that he must be impeached and that he's going to start working on that from this moment. But what I can tell you is that by the time it gets to the Senate, they will not achieve it.
Now
but it will be on record.
There is the option of the Article 25.
Yes,
about.
the man who is supposed to do that is Mr. Pence, the Vice President, together with the majority of his cabinet. But if you ask me, when push comes to show, they will lobby, they will do all manner of politicking, so the interest will come in, because most of these senators are from areas where, Mr. Trump's court-like followership are very strong. They want to come back to the Senate, and therefore they don't want to appear that they are hurting Mr. Trump. So Donald Trump is actually like a ball in the China shop. He will be eased out quietly, but he must suffer for his acts. How that one is going to play out in terms of impeachment is still dicey. It's only if Mr. Pence cooperates with them, that he can invoke that Article 25, and the majority of the cabinet must be in support. So he must be sure that before he invoke it, he has the numbers. In the Congress, getting the numbers in the House of Rep, don't it? But in the Senate, it might be a little bit
difficult.
Engineer Fijabi, people have always believed that America never gets it wrong, in terms of leadership. Was it a mistake that Trump became their president, or would they really? Do you think America has completely learned the fact that they made a mistake, voting Trump to power?
Well, I think the democratic process everywhere is hinged on the fact that you have limits. You have term limits. You have the number of years to which you have been elected to be president. And if you do not play to the traditions, to the beliefs, and to the structures of the democratic process, you will not be reelected. You suffer consequences in the process. I wouldn't think that it was a mistake. He was the man of the moment. He was the person that they felt will be able to carry out their objectives. And of course, it's by the numbers. He didn't have the majority in terms of the popular votes, but he had the electoral college. 302 to 232, that was huge. All right, 306 to 332. Now, and so he was duly elected the president. Okay, let's forget about the Russian intervention, because that could not be proved beyond reasonable doubt. But the beauty of it is that the same country that produced Obama, that produced JF Kennedy, that produced Roosevelt, also produced that America prides upon. That shows that there are basic instincts in every system that are corrupt, that are bad. An average American can be corrupt, more corrupt than a Nigerian politician. An average American businessman can be more corrupt than a Nigerian businessman. What keeps him at bay is he looks at the environment, he sees the laws, and he sees the determination of the law to use every resource available to it to ensure that you don't get away with it. That is what keeps a lot of people at bay. And I think that's the lesson from here. Those basic instincts that are dirty, that are racist, that are fascist, are coming to the fore because there was a president who woke up the sleeping giants.
Well, did Trump see all of that? He appeared to be like a stubborn man, while he was doing all of that. Just like an architect described him.
Yes.
They put him in a China shop.
Yes.
Did he see all of that? All of those structures, institutions?
No, the structures are there. But apart from the fact that he was a fraudulent man, he's also a different kind of a man who felt he can never lose. All right. These are people who are bent on winning at any cost. You can see the kind of call he placed to the Georgian, electoral officer, chief electoral officer. If you had done that like 12, 13 years ago, there's no way you would have gone away with that. But he feels he can go away with anything. And he feels in his own mind that he had won the elections, something that was really, really. Remember, after he won the election in 2016, he set up a commission to find out those people who voted for Hillary. 3 million votes over me, that's not possible. Those were dead people that, do you know what happened? The commission was secretly disbanded because they found nothing. In the cases where there have been fraudulent practices, do you know those cases, the few cases, either in 2016 and 2020, most of them had been, associated with the Republican Party, not even the Democratic Party. So it's just a different man.
Now, Trump has actually. You want to add something quickly to what? Okay, now Trump has actually done what Yes, we can say no American president has ever done the different things even before now. Right from the first day in office, he has actually been pulling strings up till even the last few days or few weeks in office. Now, do you fear that this is actually a precedent, that somebody might actually come tomorrow as president of the United States of America and also decides to do one or two things or similar or even worse things than what Trump has done as president?
The chance for that, like we observed earlier on, there have been bad presidents in the past. They've been impeached, they've faced the consequences. I don't think that's a real possibility. It's not, I mean, you can't say that it will never happen. But with the way the Trump battle is going now, I do not think that any other president of the United States will be elected of this variety. Let me explain. If you look at what Trump preached when he wanted to come in, he wasn't a traditional politician. He came from the private sector, as we call it in Nigeria. He was a businessman, a property magnate. If you are conversant with some of the books he wrote much earlier on in his 40s, he was talking about making money in the property market, leveraging on properties and all of that. He was never a politician. He was never somebody I would call publicly minded person. There's something about politics. No matter what they become later, you are supposed to be publicly minded. You are supposed to be interested in what is happening to the people. You have the public spirit. That's what they call it. He never had that. He was from a very rich family. I'm going to effect a lot of changes, and that was the message against a person like Mrs. Clinton, who is known as a policy wonk, well tutored, well educated, properly brought up. Although she also had her own, liabilities as was coming in. So that was the person he faced. Those also forget about this feminine thing. So that was all these factors created the room for somebody like Trump to come in. I mean, plus in the event of Obama years, 8 years, and the father, look, are these blacks, are these folks going to take over our country? So he harped on that to get into office. So for us to see that kind of situation again, that will be like that from the experience now, don't also forget the effect of the pandemic on what happened to Trump. So we are discussing this today partly because of the pandemic. The pandemic changed the narrative. The way he responded to it, he was so careless and irresponsible in the way he treated the issue of the pandemic. He did not do the right thing at the right time, and so many Americans were dying. So he created a platform for anybody who really wants to advance the cause of the people of the United States. We are dying in great numbers, and this man is just, doing as if nothing is happening. He was not that serious about tackling that problem. So that also created an avenue. Then most of the blacks and Asians and other people that are in the United States, the colored, find out that, look, if we continue like this with this man, he was going for a second term. We are not going to get anywhere. So they decided to vote against him this time around. But how he came in, there was a perfect storm. That's the way to put it. There was a perfect, the environment was so suitable for him to come in, and he had that message that he's going to be an agent of change, and that he's going to
make America great again.
All these traditional politics. So when he came, they were willing to give him an opportunity. Let's see the changes he's going to bring in. Let's see how he's going to behave differently from the traditional politician and the lobbyists who are in Washington. And he's going to clear all of them. I'm going to drain the swamp. That's the language. So it was not as if, to get back to your question, that they made a mistake per se. But the situation, the environment that was created, at that time was that, look here, I am going to change things for you. The political class have been messing around with your lives. So, I mean, that was what led to that. But whether that can happen in the future, that's a very probabilistic question. And if you want me to put a bet, I will say that even if it will happen, it will not happen very soon, because the lesson of the Trump presidency is so huge and it's something that most Americans, they really feel bad about
it. Now, both of you
forget about the damage done to their country. Here we are in Nigeria discussing America and the threats to democracy. We wouldn't have expected that to happen in the United States. So there is a lot of image, brand damage to brand America, and that is not lost on most of the middle class in America. I'm not talking of the rural folks who don't even know that any other country exists outside the United States. Okay, but for those of them that are really, really solid people, they feel that there is an assault on the image of the United States. There's an assault on democracy. There is also a testing moment for their institutions. And like he said, law and order and enforcing it, that's what keeps politicians in check. All of them have the tendency to behave like this. But when you have law and order and it is well enforced, then they know what to do. There must be sanctions and it must be imposed and enforced.
Now, from your submissions, you talked about the fact that technology also played a great deal in Trump's administration, getting influence amongst the populace and the rest of them. Now, just recently, after the invasion of the Capitol Hill, Twitter and Facebook actually banned, suspended Trump's account. I mean, on Twitter, he has over 80 million followers, and a few days later, I think a day or 2 days later, he opened another account, and then he was addressing his followers on that account and the rest of them, and then they pulled down that account again. Now, quite a number of Americans also are reacting to this. They are saying, who has given the owners of this medium, of these platforms, Dosny and Zuckerberg, who has given them the power to help them check their democracy, to help them control their democracy? Because the reasons they have given was that the way he's going is going to constitute threat, or is a threat to the democracy of America. Is going to make things worse. And the people are saying, who has given, do you feel that way too? That they have no powers really to do what they have done?
I think that's a misunderstanding of the First Amendment, which gives you the freedom to say whatever you want to say. And that freedom is enforced by the states as well as by the federal government, but not by the corporate organizations. The corporate organizations have the right to say, I don't want you in my system. And they will get away with it. Incidentally, that's one of the laws that Trump wanted to change, and he has not succeeded in changing it. And again, it's also showing the triumph of democracy, because if Trump had been given the opportunity, there are a lot of the structures that he will have altered completely. But those structures are resilient, and they have been able to come to the plate when they are needed most, because you have to go through the Congress to do that, and he has not been able to get through to the House of Representatives. Even some of people in the Senate were reluctant to remove that power from the tech companies, and so the law remains as it is. They have the right to decide. And guess what? The President of the United States of America, the strongest, the most powerful man in the world, did not call up the Twitter CEO and said, reinstate me quickly, because it doesn't have such powers. Facebook came up, Google came up. You know about Palo, all right? You know they have removed they are removing Palo from their system. Google, even Apple is going to do the same. And so you're going to see that a nation where the corporate giants can elect to say, look, you are a threat to our system, to our business, because we are here to make money, and you are a threat to us. And within the laws, the ambit of the laws, we can shut you out. And they have shut out the most powerful man in the world. And there was nothing he could do about it. He came in through another medium, another handle. They blocked it as well. And guess what they did also? They also blocked access to some of his close henchmen. They might review after his presidency has expired. But for now, is banned, and the ban stays. That gives me some excitement.
Okay, we'll take this short break. When we return, we'll be looking at the lessons of this for Africa, especially Nigeria, just after this short time out. Stay with us. Strong system over
Strong man.
strong man.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost the opposite in Africa. If it was Africa, what happened at the Capitol Hill? Trump would have actually, gotten away with it, isn't it?
Well, I think it was a prophecy by Obama when he came to Ghana in 2009. He advised Africans to go for strong institutions as opposed to strong man. Isn't this ironic that 6 years after we saw that happen in the United States, 2016, when this guy was elected, and in the last 4 years we have seen the attempt of a strong man to destroy strong institutions. And we have also seen how he has failed virtually at every turn, to do that. And the triumph of that is seen at the siege on the Capitol Hill last week. So I think this is an eloquent testimony to the fact that we should be more concerned about strong institutions, social, political, economic institutions. You could see the triumph of the economic institutions standing up to the most powerful man in the world, and there is no repercussion against them. Twitter has not lost money after it blocked out the most powerful man in the world. Facebook is doing better than ever before. So that's the triumph of economic institutions, all right? So we need to build those structures, and those structures should not be built around any man. There should be no deliverer, there should be no savior. There should be somebody who will work within the system that we have and propagate his views, his objectives, his vision for the nation. And then he should do it within the ambit of the law. And he should be ready to live, because there is no Superman, no Superwoman. We just want somebody who recognizes our institutions, trusts them, believes in them, promotes them to the best of his ability, so that in future, this same system will serve his own children, his grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. And if he has power to look back wherever he may be, in 200 years after he had been president, he will still see the nation strong. Because once we begin to allow a nation to be built around individuals, and for individuals to have overbearing influence on the structures of the country, and they can break laws at reckless abandonment, then the nation totters. And as nation totters, the structures are disintegrating along with the tottering. And that is something that Africa has suffered from over the years. When a president comes in, he changes everything. He rubbishes what the previous one has done. And that's also at the state level. There is no continuity. There is no desire to serve the people. I just want to leave my footprints. And I would love that those footprints are going to be structurally based. Often than those footprints break rules, break traditions, break cultures, and we don't give a damn so long as it is after my name.
Let us look at how...
Architect, I want to take it up from there. For Africa, shouldn't that actually start from the political parties? In Africa, we see individuals that are bigger than political parties, especially for Nigeria, especially after the Second Republic. During the days of UPN, NPN, GNPP, PRP, we still saw individuals that were not, although they were symbolic of their political parties. Awolowo was a symbol of UPN, Aminu Kano was a symbol of PRP, but then the parties were still somewhat, I may be wrong, I don't know, but we don't get to see that anymore.
Yeah. Let me just take it from here and stop and say that the primacy of institutions is sacrosanct in a democratic state. Institutions have to be strong. They also have to be resilient. That's the key thing. Because we have institutions, once you have, like I said now, there are political parties. There is RIOT. There is the National Assembly. There is the presidency. There is the office of the governor. There is the State House of Assembly. Okay? But what we are looking at is how resilient are these institutions? How strong are they? Can they withstand the kind of pressure that we just saw in America and still stand? So even when institutions exist on paper, they must be made to work and they must be made to be resilient, to be able to face, all those pressures that will come on them. Don't also forget that these institutions have grown up to be a part of the American democratic tradition. We must develop in Africa what is called our own democratic tradition that is anchored on our values and our cultural ethos. Because when you look at the way we still practice politics here, it is not even something that you can relate to anywhere where there is liberal democracy in terms of some of the structures. Let me start with the fact that the people, because people make institutions, don't forget, if you have the presidency and you have the laws and everything around it, somebody will symbolize it at any particular time. So it has to go back to the people that we put in our institutions themselves. Are they willing to hold on to those institutions' values and ethos? Are they willing to subscribe to those things that make institutions strong
like
and great? Like PNZ. And I'll do something. I'll give you an example. We have the National Assembly in Nigeria that is constitutionally empowered to act in a particular manner. There are duties of the National Assembly to make laws, to do oversight, and all of that. But what kind of people do we put in our National Assembly? So if you have a National Assembly that is constitutionally empowered, that means that the laws of the land give it some powers. But for you to be able to exercise those powers, some people must be there. These are members of the National Assembly. How do we get them elected? That gets to the issue of the political parties that you just mentioned. How do political parties in Africa, how do they pick their candidates? Those they put forward for the electorate to pick from. Because they are supposed to have done the screening and all of that. So it is those people that go to the National Assembly that constitute the institution at a particular time. And so if you have all kinds of people, all manner of people in your National Assembly, why would they be able to do what they are supposed to do? Are they there doing what the Constitution asks them to do, or they are there to feather their own nest? These are questions about values, about cultural ethos, about the contextual principles that guide institutions in different domains. For example, a typical American member of the legislature believes that he's there to do what his loyalty is primarily to the Constitution. Our people, the politicians in Africa must try as much as possible to ensure that their loyalty is to the Constitution. It is not to any human being. It is not to a national leader. That Constitution of Nigeria that endows them with the powers to go to do this and to do that.
Some people have even faulted the Constitution.
Yes. So what we are saying is this: institutions matter, but to make institutions strong and resilient, there is the primacy of law and order. The laws must be respected that set up those institutions. Then the people that we put into those institutions also matter. Now when they put the wrong person in the presidency, the power of the Congress to checkmate it was activated. So if we have the wrong person in our presidency, is the power of the National Assembly going to be activated? Suppose somebody say you want to do third term now. What will happen? If they take Ghana must go bags into the National Assembly, would that sway our people?
I think Dominic was trying to actually make reference to the Constitution.
The Constitution, yes.
I mean, the Nigerian institutions too. When you also look at the Constitution that has been another matter entirely. Some people have actually questioned the content of the Constitution, and the Constitution provides forms the bedrock for the institutions. So naturally, institutions in Nigeria are maybe flawed, you know. So what are they? So even if you appoint the right people to go to the institutions, to go manage the institutions, as long as the institutions are flawed.
Yeah, you know, just let me say this before I pass it on to you. The Constitution, as it is today, needs to be respected. It is also part of being respecting the institutions to say that this is still the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let us respect it. Let us be loyal to it.
You don't have any issues against the content of the
but the content of the Constitution itself is going to be worked upon by these same institutions. For example, we are talking about the Constitution of Nigeria. We have been saying it all along that there is need for amendment if we truly want to be a federal state. That if we want to operate a federal constitution, let's do something. The content of our constitution is not speaking to that federalism. Let's do something about it. Who is supposed to work on it as speedily as possible? It is still the National Assembly. So there you go again. That once those institutions that we set up, the people that we have there, are they aware that there is something wrong with the Constitution? If they are aware there is something wrong with the Constitution, do they know that it is their duty, according to the Constitution that we have, to amend it, to change it, in line with what the people want? Do they know that? If they know that, are they willing to do it? If we're talking about First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third, that means even the American Constitution that we are copying has been subject of amendments over the decades, over the centuries. But in Nigeria, we have a constitution that has been handed over to us by the military. 21 years after, we've been talking about the fact that that constitution is not good enough for us. It does not espouse federalist principles as we want it and as it can work for us. And we see the what I call the effects, the negative effects of that constitution every day. States cannot do what they want to do. The federal is doing a lot of things that it ought not to be bothered about. But what do we see now? The institution that is constitutionally empowered, even the constitution itself prescribes the way it will be amended. And it gives the National Assembly that particular power. But are they using it? So you see the constitution is the grand norm, is the fundamental law. But those who are empowered to do something about it are still some of these institutions. In this case, the legislature. In this case, the National Assembly. Have they been able to even do something? No single, how many amendments have we had? 21 years after. So what we are saying is that the resilience and strength of the institutions that we have depend on the kind of people that we have there. Even the political parties that you ask me a question about. Who are the people leading the political parties?
That should naturally lead us to the Nigerian. An average American will say, God bless America, is proud to be an American. So many Nigerians are not proud to be Nigerians. I don't know, Engineer Fiabi. Maybe that's why we have such lethargic approach to governance, and we have all manners of things happen in the National Assembly, just like you said.
Americans recently crossed several oceans to take out, is it one or two of their men, you know, that were in Boko Haram camp. How will you now feel a sense of belonging to such a nation? That your government will cross several oceans to set you free. Every American knows that. I come to this country, if I'm being mistreated in this country, I will just go to the American embassy. And I can be sure that American embassy will do everything within its power to protect me and to ensure that I do not suffer for consequences. I do not have consequences for which I shouldn't have. You know, so it's a mutual thing. You can't build trust in a vacuum. There has to be a kind of leadership that will make you to want to trust your government, that will want you to love your nation. You and I know that. I believe all of us here are married. You were not forced to marry the girls that you married. I know the strain that I went through to get the lady who today is my wife. I mean, because they were competitors. And I knew that I needed to get her buy-in. And I can remember the day she said, I will marry you. I felt so honored, so grateful that, the months of endless pursuit, has finally yielded, all right? But maybe because I'm not a very handsome person like the rest of you. So, and to get a pretty girl, I had to go that far. Maybe you didn't go that far. Maybe they were rushing after you. Okay, all right. But love cannot be legislated. You can't legislate the love of a country. In the last couple of years, I've been trying to do something among Nigerians, and what I've been doing is to say, let us not look at the outward. Let's look at what you have on the inside of you. And I've been speaking to that thing that people carry on the inside to make them want to love this country. How successful have I been? I want to let you know that I've not been very successful, because only few people, and they are endangered species, who will be able to say, I don't care what the government is doing. Inside of me is something that I need to protect. I have a name to protect. I have a vision and dream that I must pursue regardless of what is happening. I know that the environment is corrupt, but I am incorruptible, and I will not be corrupted by the system. So when he loses strings of jobs because they will not want to play ball, will he still be able to say, I am incorruptible? Or will he not say, if you cannot beat them, join them? But if the environment provides them a support, government provides an open ground, open field for everybody to bid for something, and regardless of who you know, who you are, you will be able to get into it. I mean, recently I was talking to my wife and I said, I became a teacher in Baptist Academy without knowing anybody years in the days of Jaconde. I just went to apply. And based on my performance, I became a teacher. I was even first on the list without knowing anybody, and I was taken to a highbrow secondary school to teach physics. If there is a level playing field like that, and you know that you can be anything you want to be if you work hard enough, that thing that you have on the inside of you, you will be able to sustain it. So, do you know unto whom the future of our nation belongs now, since we do not get exemplary leadership? Those people who can listen to the inner voice, who can be able to say, I am the son of so, I cannot do this. I will not be late to the office. I will not do what is wrong. I will pursue rightness even at the expense of being injured. That's a major challenge.
Architect. Yeah, Dominic. Yeah. You want to? Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to add to what he has said, or okay? Now let us look at the security. When the Capitol Hill was invaded, now one would have actually expected that. Well, we didn't wake up to hear 30 people were killed, 20 people were killed, just 5. If you pitch that against what happens in Nigeria, the Shiites protest, which is always bloody, NSAS, which also became bloody.
Yeah, thank you. Let me talk a little bit about what is really core to the future of our country. And that is, because even as we're speaking, talking now about democracy, you will agree with me that fundamentally our values, matter most. And if you look at the issue of trust in governance, you find out that it is reciprocal. There is a kind of reciprocity in the relationship between the government and the governor. And so patriotism is derived from how well the government is able to treat its citizens. And there's a lot that one can discuss about that. But the important thing is to say that as a country, what kind of people are we? What kind of people are we? When you say Nigerians, who are we? And that says a lot about even those people we put into leadership. We need to look at who we are in terms of our values, in terms of what we want for the country, in terms of our individual visions, and how it tallies with the vision, the national vision. Right now, there is a discordance between the individual vision and the vision of the nation. People are not keening into the vision of the country. And so, when you find a situation, there is something called Americanism. There's something called, if you look at American exceptionalism, they want to pride themselves as the best in everything. Even if they are not the best in it, they want to. Why can't we have what is called exceptional Nigerianism? Why can't we even have Nigerianism as an idea? And the whole talk about national unity and development will just key in. Because what you ask, the question you raise is so fundamental that when you look at the way Nigerians see their country, they are detached from their country. They are not together with their country. They should be together with their country. They should share the vision of the nation should be shared vision. Even if you have an organization, like a company, every year, every 2 or 3 years, you look at your vision again, and you look at your values, and you reinforce it. So that's that about patriotism, trust in government, and key into government affairs. When it comes to the issue of security, that he just asked.
In 1 minute, because we don't have time.
Yeah, because of our time. Quickly, 1 minute.
In 1 minute.
Yeah, just go ahead. 1 minute, yeah.
Yes, I have tried to do what is called a distinction between what happened in America and what happened in Lagos, and then the rest of it. What happened in America is an attack, a direct attack on Congress, on the basis of democracy, on what that, and the way the rest of it said was also measured. You can see that the guys were calling, they tried to prevent them from doing maximum damage. So see, what happened in Nigeria was in Lekki, where we are referring to, it's a peaceful process. And when you look, and that is just to say that there shouldn't have been anything like the violence.
Anyway, we'll go into another matter entirely. We must thank you so much for coming. Architect Kola Oguleye, thank you so much for your time on this program this morning. Engineer Fijabi, it's also a pleasure to have you on this program this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dominic, you have to go.
Yes, we thank you so much for staying tuned to the People's Telly. Otojo will be here tomorrow. Follow our team. Have a nice day.